Welcome to COMX-TV. We're your weekly guide to the comic book world. We're your hosts. My name is Mike.
And I'm Steve.
All right, and we're here for show 2.10. This is the 10th show of our second season. We're rolling around. We've been on the air since July 93, and I think we're doing pretty good. Everything's
getting better.
Getting better. And as long as you stay tuned, we've got some great stuff in store for you today. So let's kick it right into our weekly comics news.
Oh, we're kicking it. Okay, I'm going to start this one off. The start of the film of the awaited movie Judge Dredd has been pushed back again, just like the Fantastic Four on the release, to late February, early March, with Sylvester Stallone and a special unannounced guest. And I have no idea who that one is, which could be interesting.
All right. Skybox International has moved the release of its exclusive new line of the Sandman trading cards from this month, December, to February 23rd, 94, due to retailers' concerns about an overabundance of cards coming out in December. This premium UV-coated 90-card oversized card set will feature the covers of the first 50 Sandman covers, plus 39 original works of art created just for this set. When the cards come out, we will definitely review them, and this is a very unique and desirable set.
Definitely. Definitely. I got to preview one of them, and it was good. Okay, to avoid any confusion whatsoever, the Fox animated Spider-Man series will be called The Spectacular Spider-Man. It costs more than $25 million to do 65 episodes. According to what they said, they're going to play the 65 episodes, and if it has any type of reaction from the viewing crowd, like Batman does, they're going in for 65 more, and I hope they do, because another in the works, Gambit and the X-Men are going to start a different series, and there's a couple other ones coming out. So Youngblood is coming out in a series. It's going to be really, really interesting. A lot of good stuff coming up.
Great. Speed Racer, the famed star of classic cartoon series, returns to comic books early next year in a brand new mini-series from series from Now Comics. Classic Speed Racer, Return of the GRX, is a two-part miniseries slated to begin in January. This is the first time Speed Racer has been seen in the comic book area since November '92, when he did a 3D special for Now.
Do you know why it's only a two-part series?
Tell me.
Because he drives off a cliff and dies.
Ooh, that sounds good. Speed Racer.
I hate him. I have no more news.
And in Image Extreme Studios news, the January cover dated issue of Bloodstrike will feature several changes. The character Chapel, who has appeared in Youngblood and Youngblood Strike File, will be joining Bloodstrike. Richard Horry takes over the pencils, along with Jay Lee doing the cover for this issue. And that is it for this week's comics news. As always, we go right from the news into the mainstream reviews.
Guess who does those? Him. Oh, me.
Stevie.
Okay. This week, a couple special things here. I'm starting out with Aquaman, #1. The first blockbuster issue from DC for $1.50. This one is a new series. I really like this one. This had a special appearance from The Flash. Aquaman ends up fighting the Trickster, and Flash is involved in there, and Flash gets hurt. He's chasing the Trickster on the ocean, sinks. Aquaman saves him, comes up. They want to give Aquaman the key to the city because he's such a hero, and Aquaman wants nothing to do with it. He wants nothing to do with the human race. He wants to stay in the ocean. They try getting a point across again of how humans are destroying oceans and that, but that's good. That's a good point. Good to teach the younger generation. But this one was really good. I give this one a good rating. The color could have been a little bit more lively, but I really like this one. For a new series, I think this one's going to be around for a while, and I give this one a 2 in our rating system.
All right.
Okay, for my second one. Green Lantern Corps, quarterly, #7 from $2.95 from DC. This one has 64 colored pages, and I'll tell you, this one was really good. It's got 4 different stories about the Green Lantern ring. One of them is with a vampire. It starts out where This guy and his wife get attacked by a vampire. The vampire kills his wife. He discovers the Green Lantern ring, comes back years later to fight this vampire. It's a really, it's got a couple twists in it. It's a really good story. And one of the other stories is there's a creature with a Green Lantern ring that's a protector of its race. It's the last of its kind, and it's got to protect itself. And it leads on where it ends up, they take the Green Lantern ring, this group of people take the Green Lantern ring from it and store it in a like a vat to keep it alive and this and that. It was a little touched my heart, but it was pretty good. But I'll tell you, the stories in this really kept you on, sort of kept you up to date on the Green Lantern, how the ring's been passed around through different areas and what powers it net. This one I gave also a 2-2. It was a very good reading. A little pricey, $2.95 for it, but for 64 pages, pretty good. This one, Spawn, number 15 from Image for $1.95. This one has the appearance of the Violator. I'm not too sure, by the way this book looks, the Violator could be done forever. Spawn ends up fighting the Violator. The Violator captures Spawn's girlfriend. This is back in the pre-medieval years. And if anybody's been following it, you'll see Spawn always wore his full suit of armor in front of everybody. Well, he's fighting the Violator, and the Violator burns it off. And his true love finally gets to see what he's doing. Head off, putting the head down. He goes up to his girlfriend and says, "Oh, honey, and she looks at him and says, "Get the hell away from me. I don't like the way you look. What kind of a freak are you?" And he gets really hurt, and it tries to explain that Spawn is a human being that's been deformed, and it's really good. And this one I also gave a 2-2. The color was really good, the story was really good. Pick it up because this series is hot. For my fourth and final review this week, Bloodbath number 2 of 2, $3.50 from DC. New Blood is the name of this one. This is where Bloodline ends, New Blood begins. This one, I would say, don't even bother. This is another money-making book. It's a spin-off of the Bloodlines. It's got the same creature almost, capturing all these Marvel superheroes inside of it. No, I can't say Marvel, but it's got all these superheroes inside of it in a like a suspended animation state, and it's up to the new Superman to come and rescue him. Well, they have a new series of superheroes called New Blood, and the creature is called the Taker. And the New Blood, all different new characters, but they team up with some of the old characters, Flash, Superman, a couple of the other ones, and they have to destroy this. Well, this story leads on, it drags on, just like the Bloodline series. Thank God it's only 2 parts. This one I gave a 1-2, and the only reason I gave a 1-2 is it was colored very well. The storyline was boring as hell, and I would save my money and pick it up something else on this one. So as for this one, I go like this. Okay, no problem.
Holy cow, Steve.
Bad review. I really didn't like that book.
You gave it a 1, huh?
I gave it a 1 only for the color.
Holy cow.
And it's bleeding, so it's very colorful.
My goodness. I was kind of surprised there with Steve's bit of anger. But, okay, now, normally, or always, we will be. Starting last week we did, and we're going to go over to Dan DeBono and the Indie Review. And we want you to call us or write us here at COMX-TV. Let us know what you think of
this new segment
the new segment we have from Indie Magazine and COMX-TV in general. Any comments, questions, anything you have, write to us here, and we'll keep you informed of any new happenings here on COMX-TV.
It's showtime. Get ready.
Okay, I gotta stop reading these Faust books before I go to bed. I had a bad nightmare. Hi, welcome to another installment of Indie Video Magazine, brought to you by COMX-TV. Oh, I'll tell you what, I keep taking a nap before I read these after I read these comic books, and it just flusters me. These babies, brought to you by Rebel Studios Faust, it's called, are pretty intense. Now, one word of warning before we get into this, these books are for adults only. Not anyone under 18 should be even looking at these things. And a lot of people over 18 shouldn't even consider them also because they're very intense, violent, and very graphic. But if you like that kind of a horror, this stuff is for you. I'm sure most of you have probably heard of the talented Tim Vigil and Rebel Studios, but if you haven't, this will be a treat for you if you like that kind of stuff. Faust is a book that is basically a gothic horror. I'm going to show you some of the visuals that we can show you here and some of the covers and stuff like that, things that we can do and get away with legally on this television screen. The books are, again, very intense, and they are quite beautifully rendered by Tim Vigil. Rebel Studios also has several other titles like Gunfighters in Hell and several other ones which we will be going over in detail in the Indie Magazine March issue. So why don't we get right to it, and I'll start showing you some of the visuals. You see before you the cover of Act 1 of Love of the Damned. This is a Rebel edition, which is a reprint of the first issue of Faust. Here we show the cover of Act 3 of Love of the Damned. The idea that Vigil and Quinn had was to hurl themselves into the deepest circle of hell, and this is in their own words. Hell as a comic book in New York, and readers and creators alike enter the bargain. In the words of Glenn Hammonds, who owns and operates Raw Comics, which is an independent-only distributorship out in California, Faust is the hidden spirit of America. John Jaspers is striving to create, to paint, to love, and to live. But as he sees injustice, he changes. The demons before his eyes come alive. He is driven to acts of extreme violence, both beyond his control and beyond our imagination. His demons deal out justice, not the bleeding heart judicial justice seen in our court systems, but vigilante justice that cures permanently social problems. I'm not advocating that everyone go out, grab a knife, and slash any offender to pieces, but I see John's uncontrollable demons as a symbol of America's growing anger. Act 7 of Love of the Damned contained a split cover, which we could not turn on this program. The covers seem to get more and more intense as issues roll along, and the insides do as well. With the passing of each issue, Tim Vigil's interiors seem to get better and better. They started off great, and they are unbelievable by the time he's at his present. As I already told you, because of the adult... However, if you want a Faust, you can order it directly from Rebel Studios at 4716 Judy Court, that's J-U-D-Y, Court, Sacramento, California, 95841.
And that was the Indie Review with Dan DeBono. Now we go into the Indie Reviews with me.
Him.
This is where I go through my books for the week, and my first one this week is called Tribe. This is Volume 2, Number 1. Okay, this is the new series of Tribe put out by Todd Johnson, who does a story, and Larry Stroman, who does the art. It's put out by their own Axis Comics. Now, this former Image title was booted by the Image creators for the same reasons that all the Image titles were booted from themselves. Now, all the Image titles were late, and this was late, and just because they weren't part of Image, they were killed. So, there's plenty of non-stop action almost every other page. The book has a comic book look to it with exaggerated features and actions. If you like this type of non-stop action, pick up this 28-page story, glossy paper book. Costs $1.95. If you want an understandable, decent story, and you don't want all the action, pass this one by. It's not that good. Sorry.
Ooh.
Okay, next this week, This is called Nova Tales. It's number 4. It's from Jeffrey P. Nevins. It's a photocopied 8.5 by 11 small press book. Jeff says that he's been rejected by nearly every major company and many minor companies out there. Well, sorry, Jeff, but a lot of people have been, and unfortunately, that's the way this.
To the real world.
Yeah, it's the way this business goes. I do like your book here, though. Nova Tales, it's unique in that all the major characters are Superman-type women. They're all large Arnold Schwarzenegger-type women. They all have his Superman's abilities and stuff. The basis for the stories is on how men view women, and it's got a bit of the 50s, 60s nostalgia kind of writing to it. In this one, Power Woman takes on an army ruled by an evil ruler, and there's a bunch of giant king-size robots that she fights, and of course she kills everybody. The story's not bad. The art could use a little bit of work because the facial features are not consistent. Yeah, they're a little off. But each issue, another problem is that it's $5, which is quite a hefty price tag for an 8.5 black and white photocopied book. I think if he cuts the price down a little bit, just make his profits practically nil, I guess, might have a chance, because it's not a bad book at all. His address is available in Comic Buyer's Guide, so take a look at that one. It's not. And my next one this week, oh man, we've got a flamethrower going now, is one that we've been waiting for. This is Simpsons Comics #1 from Bongo Comics. Now this one is very good. This is about Matt Groening. He started Bongo Comics along with a couple other people to exploit his Simpsons as much as possible. Steve Vance does the plots and the layouts, Bill Morrison the art, Tim Babington additional inks, and Cindy Vance, Steve's wife, co-plotted, and she does coloring. There are 2 stories in here. The first one's called The Amazing Colossal Homer. It's a good, funny story in typical Simpsons vein. Homer gets zapped by this rejuvenator ray, and he grows as big as a house, walks around. He's in some kind of mental incapacity, which he usually is anyways. The second story, you flip it over, and you get a 6-page story that it's in the vein of like the old creepy or whatever it was, old comics from like the 50s or 60s. It's kind of funny. It's a little Bart story with Homer in it. And overall, the art in this book is excellent. The stories are very good. It's typical Simpsons fare. You can almost hear their voices while you're reading this. If you watch The Simpsons, you can hear Homer and everybody talking. And it's $2.25. It's sold out very quickly. It's only going to be coming out every other month. You might have to wait for a second printing or a second delivery, because I think everybody's sold out of it already. And you get part 1 of the Bongos poster here. There's 4 parts. We got the itchy and scratchy part, which we will be reviewing next week.
Ooh.
And my last book this week, this is a 45-page story in a 48-page book. It's a new debut from Defiant Comics. This is called The Good Guys. Defiant ran an essay contest and chose 7 kids from around the country to represent the characters in this book. Their names and their likenesses are used. Now the story has all the kids wishing for different kinds of things, like they could do this or they could do that, or they wish they couldn't do this or whatever. While they're in this comic book store, everybody's getting autographs from Rob Liefeld. It's kind of funny, and they all believe in this so much that they actually get these powers and stuff. They can disappear and float and all kinds of stuff like that. It's a pretty good story. It's written by Jan Childress and Jim Shooter, who's Defiant's head honcho. His name is Gray. I don't know who he is. His name is Gray. He does most of the art, along with a bunch of other people who supplied art and inks. I would recommend this if you like team concept books. It'll run you $3.50. It's a 48-page book. It's a good sized book though, so I think it's a good book and it's worth taking a look at. And that is the end of my reviews this week. And I think we did a good job on picking some good books this week, and we had some good stuff. We had one bad one that Steve beat the heck out of. But now we will do what we call our weekly previews. We each pick a book that we think is gonna be a good book coming up in the coming month or two, and take it away.
Okay, for my first one is What If number 59, $1.25 from Marvel. The X-Men guest star in What If. Wolverine led Alpha Flight. No, I'm sorry, it's What If Wolverine led Alpha Flight. When Alpha Flight takes on the X-Men, the only X-Men to survive is Wolverine. And he figures if you can't beat him, join him. This one is January 20th on the shipping date. That sounds really, really interesting because Wolverine has been in quite a few What If books, and I'm going to stick with this one. I'm going to review this one too.
And my choice this week is called the Dragon Rock Saga, or Saga, however you say it. Number 1, this is from Heather Craft. That's the name of the company. Weakened from his battle with a vicious predator lizard, Dragon Rock faces a merciless enemy from his father's past. A scarred and vindictive Earthian who has vowed Dragon Rock will experience the tortures of hell before he begs for the release of death. This issue brings the astonishing fate of Tremaine, the most intriguing female character to appear on paper for over 50 years. Do you believe that? This is a black and white book. It costs $2.50, and it is done by Heather. It will be out in January, and that is it for the previews.
Okay, that one sounded really scary to me anyways. So.
It did sound pretty scary. But we will do now, as we started last week, our convention mention. So, here they are. And that was the convention mention for this week. Hopefully within the next week or so we will have updated shows from our local constituents, and if we don't, we may be cutting the convention mention out, so hopefully they will be getting it in. That's the end of our main segment of the show. We'll be ending in right after Steve gives his usual or unusual, however you want to say, closing. We're going to end it probably with some of the interviews that we picked up at the recent Toronto convention. We got a bunch of small press stuff, and some of the people we've done their books before, so we're going to speak with them, and we will
do it. This is part of my end, so I'm trying to be real good here with this one. Okay, from now on, when you patronize your local comic shop, buy a comic, read it. Don't put it in a bag, throw it on a shelf. Don't sit there and do that with it, because it really destroys them.
Don't do that.
Take care of your books. They're worth it. They're a good investment. So next time you patronize your local comic shop, tell them you've seen it on COMX-TV.
See ya.
Ciao.
Wait a second. Don't do this! Don't do it! No! Bye. Still in Toronto, and Culture Comics booth. And how you guys doing today?
We're fine. We're fine, you know, just everybody just hanging out and just trying to make a little money.
So, tell us about your Project Eden and your Dog Soldier Cyber.
Cybermeros is my topic, but you go. Mine is more Eden. More or less, Eden is war. Before I say anything else, I should say it's done in the manga style, Japanese style of manga, and basically it takes place after the terraforming of Venus and a little bit of terraforming of Mars. More or less, it's a war between Venus and Earth. Venus is more or less trying to gain their independence from Earth, and basically it goes from there, and anything goes. I guess you could say is the best thing to do. We've geared it for a more mature audience, since it is in the Japanese style. A lot of their stuff is done in for a more mature audience as well, and definitely a lot of violence. And a lot of violence. Exactly. Pass over. Okay, well, this is Dog Soldier Cybermeros. It's basically the first comic that I've ever released publicly. I have done comics before, but not to show to the public, mainly just for my own enjoyment. It centers around the story of Meros, who is our main character. He lives in a society that's backwards and lives in a sort of a stone culture. What happens is he's kidnapped mysteriously by aliens who kidnap humans to use them as soldiers to fight for their wars. Basically, he finds out the truth about it, and he rebels against the aliens and decides to bring an end to their empire.
So how long has this whole business been together?
Culture Comics as a company has been going on for the last about a year and a half. And right behind you is one of our key choreographers, Dave Watkins. He's put together Culture Comics. We are more or less considered the manga division of the company. He's old. Yeah. He does a more traditional superhero style stories as well. There's other titles as well, including the KMT Clan, The Deliverer. There's also another one called The Target. In terms of what the manga division is working on, we're working on Project Eden, Cybermeros. Other titles we're working on are one called Heaven, Giant God Soldier, Dragon Star, Cruiser Norm, we can't forget Cruiser Norm. Federation.
These are all books that are going to be coming out?
Yes, all these titles we're all working on right now.
Are these going to be full-size comics?
Again, we want to release the ash cans to give an awareness of the comic, and eventually move to the larger size regular format comics. Again, color cover, black and white interiors.
Yeah, so for right now we're pushing Project Eden and
Cybermeros. These are the main titles right now that we're working towards.
Come on.
First issue is actually ready right now, and more or less we're putting together our funds to come up with an actual printing of the first issue. We hope to hit a large push in the American market as well, upper states.